We now join our regularly scheduled program already in progress.
Finish and come back another year. So that was at the point I was feeling like, well, you know, I really feel like giving up. It was such a difficult decision, but I decided I had come such a long way that it was worth finishing.
How many miles did you cover each day, approximately?
Averaging probably 16 to 18 miles a day. In the beginning, it's quite short, probably 9 miles. Towards the end, really getting up to 18 miles a day.
Lynn, in the tape we saw with Lisa through Pennsylvania, we saw a lot of roadway. You know, you think of a hiking trail, you think of nothing but wooded area, mountains, and so on. How was the trail divided among, you know, do you walk through a lot of towns, like Lisa said, a lot of trails?
Well, Pennsylvania is noted for its road walk. The trail inevitably crosses a lot of roads. You figure from Georgia to Maine, 2,000 miles. There's all kinds of interstates as well as turnpikes and backcountry roads. And that gets some people down because when they go out in the first place, they're anticipating a wilderness experience, and they find that just about every day they're crossing a road, and for some people this is hard to accept. But as I'd said, the road walk in Pennsylvania is particularly notable because it's about 16 miles. Is that correct? Of road walking. And that can be particularly tough on the hiker because usually by the time a hiker comes into Pennsylvania, it's midsummer, the temperatures are in the 90s and 100s, and you're walking along the road for that period of time. So luckily that's the worst state for roads.
Now, how many people actually say go down there in May or April and say, I'm going to do the Appalachian Trail? How many start? How many finish each season? How many? What's the average?
Well, nobody has really kept good figures on exactly how many people start and finish, but from what I was able to gather in doing the research for the film, about 1 out of every 4 people actually finish, which means 300 to 400 people attempt it, and about 100 people manage to finish.
So it's a very exclusive club that you belong to. You've done the trail, and Lisa, we're going to talk about some of the fun on the trail, or hardships, whatever, right after we come back. Okay, how's it rolling? Okay. Welcome back to Eyewitness Newsmakers. I'm John Bendick. Today we're talking about the Appalachian Trail, more specifically the first documentary tape about the trail, which covers 14 states, over 2,000 miles, produced by Lynne Whelden from Canton, Pennsylvania. Lynn, before we go any further, the documentary tape is now available on VCR, and since only 100 people complete the trail each year, it's going to be something people probably will watch rather than do. How can they get the tape? It's not available. Where is it available? Only through mail order?
Right. They can get the tape by ordering it from, do we have an address?
Oh, we'll have something up. Okay, this is Canton, Illinois, where you have these.
Canton, Pennsylvania.
5 Million Steps is actually the name of the documentary, right?
Right. 90 East Union Street, Canton, PA. It's an excellent tape. Original music by a group called Trapezoid, which is a top-notch Appalachian folk music group out of Virginia. Stereo hi-fi soundtrack, very high-quality film.
1 hour, 15 minutes.
Right, okay. So you get every penny's worth in the film.
What would, I've known you a long time. I know you don't want to become wealthy because of this. What would you really like to feel after people get involved and watch this tape? What would you like to happen?
Well, a couple of things. One is, for the people that do the trail, they often find it very difficult to explain their experience to other people. It's very hard to put into words. Slideshows, books, poems, all these things have been done on trying to explain the trail experience. I'm hoping that with this film, people who have done the trail can take this film to their friends, their family, whoever, and hopefully explain or elucidate more of that mysterious trail experience, which is so hard to document. Also, what I'd like to be able to do myself is to take the film on the road and perhaps in the winter months travel up and down the East Coast, showing the film to community groups, hiking groups, college outing clubs, and try to make people realize that this is not just a bunch of eccentric people out on the trail or unusual people, but this is an experience that anybody, age 10 to 90, can do themselves, and they are only going to benefit from it. There's so many positive things to be had from getting out in the woods. Not, you know, I mean, most people go out for a couple of days, a weekend, and you really don't even begin to tap into the wonders that are out there, the calming effect that can be had. So I'm just hoping that people who watch this film will say, hey, that's an ordinary person just like myself. I can relate to that person on the screen. Maybe I should give it a try. And what it's going to require is taking out 5 or 6 months in one's work schedule, quitting work, taking that midlife retirement that everybody talks about but nobody's willing to do, and do it, and you'll never regret it.
Lisa, any regrets?
Oh, none at all. None at all. I look forward to doing it again. And I agree with Lynn. I think people are too willing to sit back and watch the world go by. And you hear people complain about how boring life is and how I wish I could do the trail. So many people came up to me and said, boy, you're lucky that you took the time off or had the time off to go and do the trail. I wish I was in your situation. People, if they really wanted something, they would go out there and get it. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it was worth giving up 5 months of my job. I would have flipped hamburgers at a restaurant to be able to go on this job. It didn't matter if you want to do something badly enough. And then people say, well, why did you go by yourself? Or why did you just go with your dog? Weren't you afraid? And it's hard to put into words, as Lynn said. If you want to do something badly enough, you really don't care what the risks are involved. And it's a real life-changing experience, and I know it's put my life into perspective, and I'm a different person as a result of the people that I met on the trail, and just the whole experience of being out there, sitting by a stream for hours on end, just thinking and doing a little bit of reading, and again, just learning so much from other people that are out there.
Now, where did you stay at nights?
Okay, along the trail there are several shelters. You can stay in a shelter, or I carried a tent in my case because I had the dog and didn't necessarily want to put him in the shelter with the other people. So you can either stay in a tent or stay in a shelter, or some of the towns have hostels. Churches will very often have facilities available for hikers to stay in.
Did you ever get tempted to stay at a hotel or can you do that?
Yes, you can.
Oh,
you can.
That's,
the first time that I did that was up in New Hampshire, where I had just had it. The weather was horrible. It was cold. It was getting to be September, and I was getting pretty down about the trail. I didn't have anyone to hike with, so I just said, okay, forget it. I just hitched into town and stayed in a motel for the night.
Okay. How do you keep in touch with your family, your friends? How were they,
okay.
For 5 months?
5 months. Well, they heard from me pretty much every week or so. Pretty much every 3 to 4 days, I would go into a town to shop for food, resupply, and then I'd give them a call. And they pretty much knew where I was going to be. They had a data book at home where they knew exactly, pretty much every 18 miles, I do 18, 15 miles a day. So they follow along on a map at home.
Now, it sounds like it should be a solitary experience. Would you advise more than one person going? I mean, it's 5 months. You're going to have to get along with someone, so it's more,
right.
Most people hike it alone?
No, I would say half and half. Actually, many people do start with a hiking partner, but end up splitting up later on. I chose to hike by myself because I realized that I would be more free to meet more people and wouldn't feel attached to this other person. If I didn't feel like going 10 miles that day and the other person did, there'd be real conflict there. So I felt that I would meet other people along the way, and before I hiked, I heard that you travel in groups, and I did. You meet a number of hikers.
What did you do when you finished? First thing you did?
Cried.
Really?
Cried. Lynn was up there with me. He drove up to Mount Katahdin and met me, and we hiked up on September 30th. Again, it's hard to put into words what it's like to get to the top. It was a rainy day, and to follow each blaze on the rocks and finally get to the sign that says Mount Katahdin. At that point, I really thought a lot about what I was feeling the first day that I got onto Springer Mountain. And it's just such an emotional experience that once you get to that sign, there's really no more blazes to follow after that. And it's really the end of an adventure, and it's hard.
Do you have to have any kind of permission from anyone to do the Appalachian Trail?
No, and that's one of the unusual things about the trail is that it's all in land that is, about 90-some% of it is now publicly owned land. A lot of it goes through national parks, and each year they keep buying up the remaining plots of land that go through private grounds. So within a matter of a few years, it's going to be totally public land, and so you don't have to worry about trespassing or anything like that.
What about maintaining the trail now? Do people, is that a voluntary thing in different sections of the state or locales?
Right, it's all maintained by volunteer hiking clubs, coordinated through the Appalachian Trail Conference out of Harpers Ferry, Virginia. So it's the volunteers are really what makes this trail tick, because every year you have to get out there and clear out the brush that's fallen from the wintertime, and trails have to be rerouted and reblazed. But
shelters reinforced or something like that?
Exactly, or rebuilt.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been fascinating, and the appetite's been whetted to watch the tape. And once again, we'd like to show you that address where this tape is available. It's in Canton, Pennsylvania, which happens to be the hometown of Lynn. And it's available. It's called 5 Million Steps, the first complete Appalachian Trail documentary produced by Lynne Whelden. It's an hour and 15 minutes.